Good evening, and welcome back to Dark World Mysteries. Tonight we travel to the Venetian lagoon of northern Italy, a place surrounded by water on all sides, a place that has existed for centuries at the edge of human civilization, close enough to see the lights of Venice, far enough to be forgotten by it. This is not a story about one disappearance. This is a story about 100,000 of them. An island that swallowed the dead, that held the suffering, that stood empty for decades while the world moved on and pretended it was not there. This is the story of Poveglia. Poveglia is a small island, unremarkable in size, remarkable in everything else. For centuries, it served as a quarantine station. When plague ships arrived in Venice carrying the sick and the dying, they were not permitted to dock in the city. They were redirected here, to Poveglia. Passengers were unloaded onto an island they had never heard of, and many of them never left. Over the course of those centuries, an estimate published by National Geographic placed the number of people who died on that island at over 100,000. 100,000 people, buried in plague pits beneath the soil, layered into the ground in numbers that are difficult to fully comprehend. When you walk on Poveglia, you are walking on them. The island knows this. You can feel it in the way the place holds silence. The buildings that remain on the island tell the story of everything Poveglia was asked to carry. There is a church, a hospital, an asylum, housing for staff who worked in those institutions, people who lived their professional lives surrounded by the suffering of others, on an island with no easy way off. There is a bell tower. It is the most visible structure on the island, rising above the trees, visible from the water long before anything else comes into view. It dates back to the 12th century and once belonged to the Church of San Vitale. Napoleon ordered that church demolished in 1806. The tower was spared. It was converted into a lighthouse instead, repurposed to guide ships safely past the very island that had consumed so many of their passengers in centuries prior. A bridge connects the main island, where all these buildings stand, to a second, smaller island that was given over entirely to trees and fields, nature reclaiming what it could. There is a third island as well, separate, unconnected by any bridge. On it stands an octagonal fort, consisting of nothing more than an earthen rampart faced on the outside with brick. It stands the way abandoned fortifications always stand, purposeful once, now simply there. News reports from 2014 and 2015 confirmed what anyone who looked could already see. The buildings were still standing. The artifacts were still inside them, rusting where they had been left, untouched, as though whoever last used them had simply walked away and never come back. No one had come back. For years, the Italian government did not know what to do with Poveglia. In 2014, they decided to auction it. The announcement did what announcements like that always do. It woke people up. A citizens' association called Poveglia per Tutti formed almost immediately. The name translates simply, Poveglia for everyone. Their position was straightforward. This island did not belong to developers. It did not belong to private investors who would build luxury hotels on top of 100,000 graves. It belonged to the public, to the community, to the people of Venice, and to history itself. They raised 460,000 euros. More than 4,500 individual contributors put money toward the cause. Ordinary people who had never set foot on the island but understood what it represented. Their goal was clear. Transform Poveglia into a freely accessible public park. Repurpose the existing buildings for cultural projects that could generate revenue without destroying what remained. Operate the entire effort under community oversight principles with equal decision-making rights for every member. Their initial bid was unsuccessful. The island went elsewhere. The association went to court. What followed was not quick. It never is. Years of legal battles, repeated rejections, the slow, exhausting work of fighting a bureaucracy that had already made up its mind. But then, something shifted. The Regional Administrative Court of Veneto reviewed the case, then reviewed it again. Twice, the court ruled in favor of Poveglia per Tutti. Twice, the court found that the Agency of State Property had failed to provide sufficient justification for denying the association's concession requests. The law, in the end, was on the side of the people who simply wanted the island to be open. On the 1st of August 2025, after years of fighting, Poveglia per Tutti received a 6-year concession for the northern part of the island. Their urban lagoon park project now has a chance. 100,000 people, buried in the ground beneath that island, had been waiting a long time for someone to decide their resting place deserved something better than a hotel. They are still waiting for the full answer. But on August 1st of this year, something moved. Something that had been still for a very long time finally moved. Poveglia is not a horror story in the way we usually tell them. There is no single event, no one night, no case file with a name at the top. It is something older and larger than that, an island that absorbed suffering for centuries and was then simply abandoned, left to hold what it had been given, while the world built hotels on the mainland and argued in courtrooms about who had the right to decide what happened next. The bell tower still stands. The 12th century stone is still there. The plague pits are still beneath the soil. The fight to honor that, rather than erase it, continues. We will be watching. Until next time, stay with us.